with us as well, and you can give Bob a call, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. That's 349-9227. Ask him your questions about lawns and gardens and such. And so, good morning.
Good morning.
It is rather dry out there now, isn't it? We're to the point where have you checked the drought tables to find out if there are any declarations or warnings?
I did not do that,
Mm-hmm.
although I would think if we would be in that situation, they would
Trumpet that from atop the hills?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they haven't done that, but do be aware that we haven't had rain for quite some time, and that makes for a very dry fall, doesn't it?
I guess it's been a couple of weeks since we've really had
Yeah.
any rain.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had any rain
But
since
we've
before
also-
the Houston tornado,
Right. Yep.
but it was plenty wet through the summer.
Before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you look at the records, we're still ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for the growing season, I mean, they're still showing that we're over 8 inches above normal from April 1 till now. But we're picking up some on the end here because we're not getting any rain.
At
go ahead.
At this end of the season, do yards and gardens and plants that are about to go dormant for the winter, do they have any special need for more water to store up or no?
Well, we'd like to go through the late summer and early fall season with some moisture in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those plants are going to start to get a little stressed if this continues.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with the warmer weather, above normal temperatures we've been having, that kind of adds to it a little bit, and causes things to dry out quicker. Okay. So if you're trying to get some things established this fall, so if you're trying to get a new yard seeded, or you're trying to patch things up, or fix wet spots or something like that, more likely this year than some other years to have to do that, or trying to plant some trees and shrubs for fall. There's a lot of different trees and shrubs that can be planted in the fall, and they usually do pretty well because it is cooler, and usually we have ample moisture this time of year that they'll do fine. You have to water them less and all that. Now so if you have plants that you've just planted, especially you might have planted a tree or you might have planted some shrubbery, you may need to water that supplementally to make sure that it gets enough water.
Yeah.
Because that root ball is only so big. Anything grown in containers is used to being watered, usually with some sort of irrigation system. While those are in the nursery or the garden center, they're getting watered on a regular basis, and then you purchase that plant and you put it in your landscape, and so then you need to take that over or have Mother Nature take care of that for you. And right now we're not getting that.
No,
and that root ball can dry out pretty quickly, as long as the leaves are on there.
Folks, continue to watch temperatures. Now, today is as cool as we've had at 42 degrees, the current temperature. So it won't be long before we're looking at the first frost of the fall. And people are wondering, okay, now, the plants that I have outdoors, I have to get them indoors. Is it time to start preparing them for their indoor season? Yeah,
so actually you can do that now. And I've noticed kind of an uptick. Aphids, for example, we did talk about that last week.
Aphid pea. We were talking about aphid pea last week.
The other insect that can cause that raining effect is some of the scale insects. Like if you have magnolia, magnolia scale is pretty common on magnolia, and they attach themselves to the branches, and they're also a sucking insect, so they can really make the sap drop at certain times of the year. But aphids specifically, if you have a lot of, they can be on house plants that you have out for the summer. I've noticed them lately on several different crops, including flowers. So if you have flowers and pots and planters and things out, and those plants are starting to decline or not look too good, look a little closer, because you may have an aphid infestation on them. They've really kind of ballooned up, and this warmer, drier weather has allowed them to do that. So check your house plants before you bring them in. Okay. Try not to bring them indoors with all those aphids on them.
Because they'll jump.
Because they'll move around, yes. They won't fly, but they'll walk around. move on to other plants other house plants that you may have kept in all year round.
Yeah.
And then become a nuisance and indoors.
All right, so folks are thinking about that and probably other things when it comes to moving plants indoors.
And then the more sensitive plants, so ones that are more tropical in nature, that really don't like it below 50 or 60 degrees at night, those are the ones to start looking at first.
Get them in.
And then, or you might just have to bring them in for a night or two here and then go from there.
Let's take a caller. Good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I think I talked to you earlier in the year, Bob, about my garden pretty much getting destroyed from the flood.
Yes.
I'm getting ready to, clean it up, what there was of a garden, clean it up and turn it back under and get it ready for next spring, hopefully. Is there anything I have to do with the soil due to the fact that it was flooded by those waters pretty much inundated?
Usually not. Just, cleaning things up, working the soil. If you can plant a cover crop, we still have a little window here that you could get, especially some rye grain planted.
Let me just ask you to turn your radio down if you could, because we're getting some feedback there. Okay, go on.
So if
there you go.
Yeah, so something to cover that for the winter rather than just leaving it open. Now would still be a good time to get that sowed, and you could still get some growth on that, and that'll help, add some nutrients, especially so you can lose some nutrition from flooding like that, or prolonged periods where there's water sitting there, and especially if that water is not so much running over top. When it runs over top, it can literally take soil particles and move them away, as you are aware, and then but also that percolation down through, some of those nutrients can also be leached. So you may want to double check nutrition-wise, a soil test this fall just to see where you are. A cover crop, if possible, that'll also, of course, hold soil in place. Add some organic matter, because that's another thing that could be lost in that flooding situation, is losing some of that good organic matter that we need to have a productive garden as well. But other than that, natural processes will, take care of and work through any kind of bacteria organism issues that might have been there. And usually what's going to happen, too, is as those bacteria and fungi, of course, there's a lot of good bacteria and fungi, and then there's also the groups that are not as good. It's just the same thing as with insects. We have 97% of the insects are okay, and it's just that small percentage that are pests on various things. So we just need to keep that in mind, and a lot of those will, just through nature and good organisms eating bad organisms and the weather changes and everything, those will a lot of times take care of themselves over time. And then if there were any debris, of course, got to get that kind of stuff cleaned up.
Yeah, well, I was more concerned with the bacteria. I've taken care of all the debris and stuff. Actually, my plants are debris now.
Yeah.
They didn't do real well. But, okay, I was just kind of worried about the bacteria stuff, so I can take care of that with a cover crop and working it back under in the spring.
Yeah, and then just those other natural processes that go on or will take care of that stuff as well. And those things, and all that bacteria and fungi stuff, it's very we can't see that normally until they get at certain stages of their life. We don't see all that activity going on an everyday 24/7 basis. So it is unknown when we're standing there looking at that, or even looking at our hands or our skin, or we've got all that stuff going on there already.
Yeah,
but we can't see it.
Bob Pollock with us this morning. A little bit late in the segment to take a call, though. If you called right this minute, we could probably get you in for a short one. But as we continue to discuss things that we need to do in order to bring plants indoors, light at this time of the year, as opposed to the light that they'll be getting in a month or 2 months when it's much darker at that time of the year. I would guess that depending upon the type of plant that it is, tropical or subtropical or non-tropical, that's going to play into how much light they need too.
Right. And normally we're getting more light when they're outside. As soon as you take them in many cases, we might be cutting the amount of light in half or more, depending on the orientation and the windows and everything that are indoors versus outdoors. So a lot of times we're picking those house plants that are going to be adapted to more so that indoor culture versus the outdoor. But so they're not so shocked as much when they do come in, and they're also acclimating a bit now too because the days are getting shorter every day. So that begins that acclimation process for then moving them indoors.
I know that you are very big on making sure that you have moisture nearby, not necessarily pouring water into the soil, but making it humid around them.
Yes.
Yeah, got to do that.
So, normally our humidity levels outside are higher than what they are indoors. So that's another major change that those plants can have to deal with going from outdoors to indoors is just the humidity levels and adjusting to that. So it can be a lot. So you can bring that plant can be doing fine outside, and 2 weeks after you bring it in, it may be dropping leaves, and that's just the result of.
Don't panic then.
Yeah, don't panic, but that should be a very visible sign that you need to adjust something. It either needs more light or more moisture, or temperature range needs altered to.
I would guess there
healthy.
Are plenty of resources available for folks who are in that situation where they want to bring stuff indoors and taking care of indoor plants that they can get from the office. Yes.
Yeah, most of that stuff is online now, but the information about that's pretty readily available.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Hey, you are welcome. Thank you.
Bob Pollock from the Extension